Welcome back to the Within podcast. We've got your co-hosts here, Nikki Wallace, Allie Payne, and Heidi Butoff, all in studio. So we're excited to have a different setup this week. But today we're talking about organizational audits.
How we get started.
Yeah, how you get started.
So lots of times we have organizations reach out to us for a specific thing, like they want an engagement survey, or they want to do a well-being program, or they want, a human resource audit or something. And we believe before we come to you as an organization with an answer, we really need to understand who you are. So we do an organizational culture exercise, and that really helps us understand who you are, who your people are, what your people need, kind of all the things about your organization before we start just throwing more stuff at you. So let's figure out, how do we understand today and maybe what you think you need, and then actually what your people might think you need. And then, how do we move forward?
And what do you have?
And what do you have?
I think that's like the biggest thing. Yeah. Like what's already there.
Yeah. So we start with the framework, right? What we think kind of helps ask the right questions to get some of the responses that allows us to get to better know the business leaders, the business. What are you in the business of doing? What's your longer term vision and so forth? But once we get that data back, it then allows us to even ask more pointed questions, if you will, or questions that have piqued our interest or curiosity that then kind of get us going down a path that may or may not be the very thing that the leader thought that they needed.
Yeah.
Right. And so, whereas we want to honor what people believe they need for their organization just based on, hearsay or their business groups that they're in, or they hear other business leaders or organizations doing it. Sometimes it's not the right time or the best thing to be doing for your organization at that particular moment. And so that's why we like to just come in and really kind of dive a little bit deeper. It's kind of like sitting around the, dining room table and just kind of having those honest conversations. Because I think our end goal, when we think about working with an organization, is really making them that employer of choice, and helping them with that employee value proposition to attract, engage, and retain their employees differently than their competitors or the organization down the street that could be taking, the same kind of talent that they're trying to get. And so that's why we just think it's a good place to start. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it's something we do throughout, it's not just a one and done type of thing. And so while we call it an exercise, it's really kind of that starting point. And it just kind of helps us feel as though we're part of the organization too, in coming up with the solutions and also then how to implement them with the employees and so forth. So it's just a way to get started.
Yeah. So if you break it down, it's relatively easy. It's kind of like what I would consider kind of three things that you need to do. One, of course, is getting your leaders all on the same page. So, are your leaders thinking about the same thing when it comes to your work-life balance? Are they thinking about from a leadership development standpoint? Because, every employee is asking about how are you developing me? We also want to make sure we understand your environment. And then, of course, sort of like, what's your purpose? So what's your purpose in your organization? How are you driving your purpose? How are you driving your values? How are you using your values? And then also, does your brand on the outside match your brand on the inside? So that's sort of step one. Step two is really understanding your demographics. So, do you know who's in your organization? Do you know, what generation they're in, and how do those generations function inside the leadership team that you have, but also really thinking about how does your generation show up outside of the organization. So, how are you working with your clients or whatever organization you're in or business you're in or industry you're in, the generations really do matter, because those 5 generations in your workforce today make up a large percentage of how you interact with each other and how you interact with your customers. And then the last thing that we do is really an audit of your resources. So you have probably 50 to 60 resources that you may or may not know about, and we uncover all of those. And we put it in the traditional buckets of well-being from Gallup. We do that because it's just easier to catalog them and really get an understanding of A, what do you know you have, and B, maybe what you don't know you have and you're actually probably paying for, and then C, do your people know that you have all these amazing resources? And then how are you communicating those resources? So those three those three exercises, I'll call them, really help us determine like where you're at today and what do you need to do. Mm-hmm. And from there, we could do listening sessions. We could do focus groups. We could do key stakeholder leadership interviews to make sure the leaders all understand it. But we're not coming in with a solution to tell you about all of the things that you do. We're coming in and saying, here's where you're at today. And you might want to go a different direction, or you might want to stay in the exact same direction, or you might say, wow, I never realized that. Mm-hmm. And I probably need to do a better job of, communicating something. Or I have an HR team that is super overworked and they can't even add anything more to their plate. And so it really gives us a much better, more clear idea of where you are and then where you want to go.
Yeah, and it might come across as a little bit of a challenge at times to the business leaders that we're working with, because when we bring in our perspective and our expertise, we might be asking the questions that they'd never thought of.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that,
you probably are.
Yeah, and sometimes that feels like a bit of a challenge, but we're really just working on the best interests of the organization where they're trying to go, right, versus just doing maybe what's always the traditional things to do, and kind of raising them up, raising their standard, if you will. And so sometimes it might feel a little bit of a challenge. And we're okay with that, but again, we wouldn't be doing our roles if we weren't sharing that expertise and perspective and asking the questions that maybe they weren't thinking about.
Yeah, and some of the things that come out of it are things like maybe you should do a culture assessment, because we really don't understand where your culture is, and you want to improve your culture, but either your culture is not that bad or it's really bad and you need to figure out what to do, and that will help us get where to go. Might be an engagement survey. So maybe we should be asking your people more questions about how they feel and are they engaged in the work that you're doing. It could be listening sessions, like I talked about earlier. Like, definitely listening sessions are something we do a lot with clients, because employees want to be seen, valued, and heard, and those listening sessions open up that avenue to start feeling like you are actually taking what they need and want and putting it into action. Mm-hmm. It could be that you need a better communication strategy because you're not communicating all the resources that you have, or a mentorship program because you've got a lot of young talent that needs to get ready to step into these roles of these people retiring. And so, the solutions could be very different than what you might have come to us for, but we believe taking a step back and really understanding what that looks like is a way better approach than just going right to solutions.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And the other thing that I would add to that is because of the culmination of the data that we've gathered through, as you set up, kind of those three different exercises and knowing the people, we may even be asking you why you're doing something that you're already doing. Because maybe it isn't of value to your employees, and instead of adding more to the plate, we might even just be encouraging you to stop doing something that you've been doing for years, and it's just not of value to the employees as they stand today.
Yeah, very true.
So when people come to you for like the culture, employee engagement, kind of all of that, what size of organization does this usually, like, to me it kind of sounds like a lot, right? But like, what, I think every organization, no matter what size, has all of this, and It's just like, are they utilizing it or not? But in general, what are the sizes of organizations you're generally seeing?
Yeah, we've worked
invest in this.
Yeah, I think every organization has invested. It doesn't matter their size. It's really more about a question of, are they getting what they need out of their talent?
Yeah.
But also, we've had clients that have 20 employees all the way to 50,000 employees. Most of the work that we do is in that middle market space. So small to middle market tends to be what they need, because a lot of larger organizations have big HR teams where someone on the team could do these types of things. Mm-hmm. And then we might just come in there to be an outside expert to provide, some consulting hours for that particular project. But it doesn't...
I feel like we get asked a lot, like, what size of organization? And we kind of push back on marketing people we've worked with in the past, because it's like the work that we're doing, whether it's the fractional HR, fractional wellbeing, fractional, executive or employee engagement, or, or project work. I mean, it's every organization, no matter how big they are, they have a component of this going on. It doesn't matter. As soon as you start adding people, you inevitably are going to have all the things happen that come with adding the people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
And we talked to a lot of organizations. We just even talked to one yesterday that, I mean, and there's no wrong in this, but a lot of times when you're small and growing, you put someone into an HR role
100%.
to wear that hat that just likes is good at talking to people or good with the people and doesn't necessarily have the expertise to help you continue to grow. And that's just
How
what we're
I think
trying
a
to do.
lot of people get into HR. It's just like they end up falling into it from something. Yeah.
And again, that's a great place for a lot of people, and sometimes they just need that partnership with someone like ourselves that can again just raise the standard with how they're approaching their talent.
Yeah. It's been fun to see you implement all of this into different organizations. I mean, I'm really good at the front end, and when Allie came on board and Heidi, it's the everything, like how do you get people to stay? And there's so many different ways you can come about it depending on the team and the hats everybody's wearing and everything. It's just, you got to do something. So,
yeah. I think for so long, organizations have focused on comp and benefits as like their number one employee engagement driver.
Yeah.
And it's just not that way anymore. Like people are looking for something more, something different, something that is different than what you can get down the road from another employer. So it's really important that you understand what you have and then how do you deliver it and how do you make sure people understand what it is and why it's valuable to them, because most of us think about me first. I'm not alone. Most employees think like, what's in it for me, not necessarily what's in it for the organization.
yeah.
Well, and that point there, Allie, is really ties to the generations.
Totally.
I mean, again, if you've been around for 10, 15, 25 years, what you were doing for your employees 25 years ago is not going to be of value to the generation that's coming up.
Yeah.
The time autonomy, I mean, is huge. They want more autonomy over their time, for instance. Small, but yet how you consider that or think about that could be very different than 8 to 5, not a minute after, not a minute before type of stuff. So it's changing and challenging the thought process a little bit.
Do you think the way that businesses run today will be very different in the next 10 to 15 years as the boomers leave and like the younger generations move into different roles?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's already happening.
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily think that we're the same as we were even 10 years ago. I mean, no one likes to talk about COVID anymore, but COVID literally changed how people do business.
Yeah.
And there were organizations that we worked with that were literally like, people can't work from home because we don't have enough laptops for everyone. And somehow in 7 hours, the organizations figured out how to get everyone laptops so everyone could go work from home. So like, it's just crazy that how that important that was to get someone to change their mindset around, and even the whole conversation around productivity. And I think about myself, right? Like, I am such a better human and such a better employee when I can work from home and get things done when I couldn't get them done on the weekend.
Right.
And I remember sitting in rooms where leaders would be like, oh, well, they're doing their laundry while they're working.
Yeah.
Who cares? I don't know about you, but my laundry machine, like once I hit the start button, like it does its own thing.
Right.
So it's not like I have to sit there and watch the washing machine, make sure that it's just like, the mindset of, and it isn't just one generation. Like that's the thing, right? We have millennials that think the same thing that the boomers think, and the boomers think the same thing the Gen Zers think. And so it's just this, the world has changed. And until organizations determine that they have to be flexible, and I don't mean flexible in like, oh yeah, do whatever you want. I mean like just flexible in how your people show up and flexible to each of them bringing who they are to the work. Like hopefully you hired these people because they are who they are, not because you want them to fit into some mold that you've created. I think that's the future. And AI is going to make it even more that way, whether you agree with AI or not, or think it's good or think it's bad. AI will eventually change how you do business.
100%.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, even healthcare, which I keep reading articles about how AI is not going to impact healthcare. I really do think it is.
Yeah. Well, and I love the example that you always give, because I think people are listening to this and are like, oh God, I got to go in and change everything. And it's like, no, you always even give the example, like my brain doesn't work after 3. And so, I mean, a lot of emails are things that come after 3. We're going to Minnesota instead of Des Moines on invites. But, I think it's as simple as like, just understanding, like, we talk about it with the potential within too. Like what is happening in that person's life, and maybe a flexible, like changing 1/2 hour or 1 hour of their workday could make all the difference to how that person performs during the day. So I don't want people to think like, oh, they're going to come in and change everything we do. And it's like, no, usually not. It's just having a different thought process around how it's done. So,
and being open.
Being open. That's
being open to just, oh, someone else has a different like thought process. Oh, wow. Like, and I think the other thing that we don't talk about a lot, because a lot of leaders today do not love the conversation around psychological safety. And that is such a huge component of being a successful team is that, showing up as your authentic self. And a lot of times that rubs people the wrong way is, oh, I can't believe that they said that in the meeting. Like, well, yeah, of course, because I'm not going to sugarcoat something. Like, it is what it is. Right. And so you've got to figure out how to build that psychological safety on your leadership teams if you really want to be successful.
Well, and that's why I like how we tie it all into the pillars of well-being, right? Because I mean, when we bring it back, our framework is focused on the whole person showing up to work every day. And looking at it from a holistic well-being perspective. And most organizations aren't thinking about it that way when they think about talent strategies and how it aligns to their business strategy. We really come at it from an organization health and an individual health. The individuals have to be well in your organization for your organization to be well. And so it really is full circle in our opinion. Yeah,
and we're working on the 9 modern pillars of well-being, because we believe well-being has shifted for a lot of humans and probably organizations. We haven't necessarily done a
it's not stamped yet. Let's just say
it's not stamped. Right. No, that's right.
But we're working on it.
We do think there's probably more modern way to think about well-being. So we're working on that pretty heavily right now. So we're excited about that.
Fun stuff.
Yes.
All right. So if you don't know where to start, honestly, just message us, call us, talk to Allie. Probably is your, I could talk to you about listening sessions and engagement, but Allie's going to be your person to start with. But they're doing some pretty cool stuff in that space. So thanks for hanging out with us today and listening to everything about how to get started, and we'll plan on seeing you next week.